So many people and teams that are new to automation struggle to find the right processes to automate. And signs of this are when it takes a bit too long to deliver on an automation project, or the automation keeps breaking. And this does tend to stall the momentum of projects and even programs. Inevitably, stakeholders will get frustrated and they may even lose interest. But perhaps the problem isn't the technology or even how it's been developed. Maybe you're automating the wrong process, which you will later on find is unsuitable. So in this video, I reveal 8 tips for identifying activities, tasks, and processes which are most suitable for automating. So we'll cover each aspect in detail, we'll take a look at some examples, and we'll see why these tips are so important and what happens if you miss just one. Once you get a handle on identifying the right processes to automate, you can really accelerate your automation projects and programs and navigate many of those challenges that new teams repeatedly make. And then successfully implementing automation will be highly rewarding. Hi guys, welcome back to another video. And if you don't know me, I'm Tony, lead automation consultant at Lean IA, the Lean Intelligent Automation Company. And I'm all about simplifying intelligent automation for professionals and business leaders who want to level up their knowledge. Because I want to empower you to optimize your business and discover new technologies in a lean and accelerated way. So if you're looking to accelerate your learning curve and future-proof your business and career, like the video and hit that subscribe button so you get notified every time I release a new video. I've been working in many industries automating processes, and through my journey I've built this global network from Asia to the Americas and all across Europe and obviously the UK. And I've seen a lot of how this industry and its technologies have changed drastically, and so I've created methods and approaches to navigate the common pitfalls and mistakes that teams and professionals new to automation make time and time again. And I've mentored and I've led automation analyst teams, I've managed development teams and set up operational teams from the ground up to help businesses unlock millions of pounds of savings and thousands of people hours so that this can be redeployed back into the business so that staff can do more and can get a better work-life balance. So I've learned a whole lot of do's and don'ts and created these methods in these videos so that you are empowered to navigate the challenges and mistakes that newbies make in this industry so that you can accelerate and excel in your career. No one back then really knew much about automation. It was very alien to most businesses. When I went out in the first job that I had, I really struggled to find the opportunities. And I did learn a lot of do's and don'ts from my experiences. So I first heard about RPA back in 2017, and back then hardly anyone knew what it was, and it was very alien to most businesses. So when I went out into the business that I was assigned, I found it really difficult to find opportunities. But I learned a lot of do's and don'ts, and I networked a hell of a lot in London and online, and read pretty much everything I could get my hands on so that I could create foolproof steps to find the best opportunities for automation. So if you follow these steps, you too will be successful in finding the most suitable processes to automate. So rule 1 of pure RPA is that it can only handle standardized inputs. So that basically means predetermined options like a drop down or radio buttons, and it can't handle unstandardized data like an email or a comments box. And you'll be surprised that automation, pure RPA, can only handle about 20% of the processes in your business. But still, that is a lot of processes. There's probably hundreds of processes that you can automate right now just with robotic process automation. But anything else that can be automated would need some AI added in. And the reason that RPA needs standard inputs is so that you can write the logic for every single option that could come out of a certain decision point. So you can create logic for predetermined options. Someone had a text box to write in the date. They could do 10, 11, 21. That could mean the 10th of November if you're in the UK, or it could mean 11th of October if you're in the States. So even we can get confused as humans. So RPA needs something standardized. So make sure you don't give RPA. So stay clear of anything that requires free text, because bots aren't intelligent. They can't understand natural language. So the input has to be standard formats. Rule 2, the process must not require human judgment. If your process has any steps that require human judgment, it's best to stay clear from this, because otherwise you may be wasting your time trying to develop something that's too difficult. Even if you try to include AI, it might just not cut it. Machine learning can make judgments based on probability, but it's not the best start for pure RPA projects. And machine learning requires lots and lots of data to identify the patterns, data which you may not have access to. So right now, keep it simple. Do remember that automation are software robots that don't think. They just follow steps and logical decisions over and over again on repeat. So if it doesn't require human judgment and the inputs are standardized, you're onto a good start at finding an automation project. Rule 3, decisions must be rules-based. Similar to the last point, but this is specifically looking at how a decision is made in a process. So if the process has a decision point, you need to be able to affix some logic to each option. Like explaining to someone brand new in your organization that doesn't understand the domain that you're in, like an apprentice. If you can explain to someone new exactly how to make a decision, like if price goes up, press buy, if price goes down, press sell, something as simple and logical as that, anyone new could follow. And RPA is exactly that. So if you can write down the preset rules for making the choice for each option, then this is something that can be automated. The other thing is, even if you could determine the criteria for each option, if it had hundreds of different options or different outcomes for a decision, then maybe that's not the right type of process for automation. So stay away from this from an automation sense. Or what you could do is you could have the human in the loop, where the first part is RPA, then it goes to a human to do some thinking and decision making, and then the automation takes over again and completes that process. The worst thing is if you have a whole array of, say, 100 different outcomes and you've only built automation to handle 10, then 9 times out of 10, your robot is going to have an error and it's going to have to require some human to do the fallout work anyway. So maybe it's not worth your time building right now. You're just going to give the developer a real hard time trying to develop a solution. For example, how do you build logic for was the customer happy today? Make sure that you can map the process with predefined rules, because this is the key point of automation. Only if you can predefine the logic behind how a robot makes each decision that could come out of a certain decision point. So you can create logic for predetermined options, then you can automate. Rule 4 is the process should be repeatable and manually intensive. Though automation can do processes which aren't that repeatable, maybe run once a year or once a month, and they may not be processes which are manually intensive. Even if you can automate a process, it doesn't necessarily mean that you should. It's all about the value that you can give back to the business, the return on investment, and for the time spent building this automation. When a process is repeatable and manually intensive, you get a lot more value because you're saving a lot more time, and things which are repetitive are not really how the human mind works. And that's when we make a lot of mistakes, and you'll find these processes have the most highest error rate because the human mind isn't meant for repetitive manual tasks. Our brains have been developed to carry out more creative, judgmental, and problem-solving tasks. So when you find a really repetitive, manually intensive task, and it also abides to the first 3 rules, then you're onto a winner, because not only can it be automated, you'll be pretty sure that it can provide massive value back to your business. So repetitive tasks are like moving data from one system to the next, copying and pasting, filling out forms, or checking a long list of data multiple times a day. So when you automate these processes, not only will you save time, you'll greatly reduce the error rate. Rule 5 is high volume. So look for processes which have a lot of volume of work. So not only are processes repeatable and they take up a lot of time, but there's a lot of volume of work. So there's long queues, there's long hold times. These are the sorts of processes where, when automated, you can save significant time and value and reduce the cost of those processes. Even if a process can't be automated directly, like handling customer inquiries, the getting of the customer data to assist the customer service advisor can greatly speed up how they assist customers, and they can do more. They can save more time looking for data and invest more time serving the customer. So if you have processes which have long queues, long hold times, low staff morale, poor customer service and customer experience, then there's probably processes which have high volume and are repetitive involved in that area, which you can improve immediately with automation. Real quick, let me know if you're getting value from this video by hitting that like button. That's really going to help me out. Rule 6 is making sure the process is stable. You want to make sure that the process doesn't keep changing or being tweaked every single day. And it shouldn't change dependent on who's doing the process, or employees shouldn't be making exceptions based on judgment. For example, if Claire does the process, she asks for the delivery and the billing address, but when Rob does it, he just asks for the delivery address. So you want a process that doesn't keep changing like the weather. It needs to be done one way, no matter who's doing it, and it shouldn't change throughout the year. Obviously, there are different situations and scenarios which will change the path down that process, but the process itself should always be done the same. So make sure you confirm with the team that there's only one way of doing this process, and it doesn't matter who's doing it or what day or lunar cycle or season it is, it's always done the same way. In fact, if it isn't done the same way, then maybe this is an opportunity for you to work with the team to standardize their process, because it's very important that you optimize the process first before you automate. Make the process lean and streamlined, because once you have a stable process that you want to automate, it's so much easier to maintain it. It will require very little support, and you'll pretty much just build it and be able to leave it be. So number 7 is make sure there's no pending changes on the applications. Hopefully you've taken a look at that video, and now you should know that how RPA works, and that it uses the user interface just like you and I would, by clicking on buttons and typing as if it's using a keyboard. But the thing is, RPA can't think. So if a button moves, or if a button's removed from the page, or if the link has changed on the application, the robot won't be able to know what to do next. So this is why it's so important that the application that the robot is working on doesn't change. Otherwise, you're going to have to keep updating your automation to match the changes on the application pages. So for example, if the button changes, it was called submit and now it's called enter, or if the field name was called name and it's changed to first name, the robot won't know what to do and it's just going to error. So once you've found your automation processes using the previous 6 rules, this 7th rule is just to make sure that anything that you build is not going to error and you're not going to have to change it anytime soon. So make sure you ask, are there any pending changes on the applications that this automation is going to use? To get the best benefit, you want to make sure that there's no pending changes at least between 3 to 6 months in the future. And you also want to make sure that you're notified when these changes will happen so that you can catch it and you can make the changes quickly before they're released. Yes, maybe some of your automations use third-party applications or websites. And yes, this is out of your control and it is a danger zone. So you want to make sure that you do your best to stay in the know when changes to these applications are most likely going to be made. But when you're starting out, it's best to stay clear of anything that has applications that you don't have control of. Otherwise, you're just going to pay big in support costs and change requests. The alternative is to use APIs, but let's talk about that in another video. So up to now, we've found suitable processes. We know that the application and the processes are stable, so there's minimal effort needed once we've launched. So we feel pretty confident that the investment into this automation project is going to give us really good returns on investment. So number 8 is an obvious one. Is the process digital end-to-end? So unless you're incorporating physical robots and the Internet of Things, your process needs to be computer-based, preferably end-to-end. However, you can add human in the loop. Like we discussed earlier, you could have part A, which is the automation. Then it becomes a human in the loop activity like picking up the phone or printing something off or even scanning something. Then the last part triggers the robot again, and then the automation completes that process. So make sure you stay away from any process that requires a lot of off the computer work like paperwork, making calls, making scans. Obviously, eventually we're going to be able to talk about linking RPA to physical robots, and we're going to create that video just for you, but we'll get to that much later. I'll probably bring in my friend who's an expert in robotics, but we'll leave that for a future video. So for best results, make sure you're automating a process which is digital end-to-end. That's a lot easier. You can do on and off computer work when you have a human in the loop, but this just requires the human to trigger off the second part of the automation. Okay, so we've talked about these 8 rules. Make sure you're following these rules and you will have success in automation without too many hiccups. So thanks for watching this video, and if you're loving these videos, I'd love if you could tap that like button and don't forget to subscribe so you get notified every time I release new videos. Okay, you keep optimizing and you keep discovering. Take care.